Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, Happy New Year. Here we are in 2023 and I trust that this year there'll be something cool that happens to you this year. And I trust you enjoyed my last video on Gerry Rafferty and through his song Baker Street, which is such an iconic song in that late 1970s period. We're going on to Georgios Panagiotis today. He was born in 1963 in England. His dad was a Greek Cypriot restaurateur who emigrated to the UK around 1950. Now, Georgios is known professionally as George Michael. And when you see that name, he was very much the voice and look of the MTV generation and beyond. This guy was absolutely massive, an artist, so influential in so many different ways. He met Andrew Ridgeley in 1981 and they decided they'd give this thing a bit of a go and formed the band Wham. Now, Wham were absolutely massive. There wasn't much bigger than these two guys when they were out. Of course, MTV really helped this concept of music videos. They released Fantastic in 1983 and Make It Big in 1984. And when you think about Wham, first of all, Andrew and George's songwriting, but you know that George very much was the voice of Wham, and he very much catapulted into superstardom at this point. Now, when you think of Wham, the song you think about is Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Now, I've actually got a few clips below and I'll refer to them as we go through. And this is the Choose Life t-shirt period where everybody was wearing Choose Life t-shirts. And that was because of this particular video clip. In fact, I remember my sister being given a Choose Life t-shirt. She went, nah. So we've got the official clip on that one, and this is Wham, absolutely. Those two albums sold 30 million copies, so that's pretty significant amount of output and amount of sales in a very short space of time. Wham were famous because they was the first pop group to actually visit and perform in mainstream China, and very much opened up the world there quite significantly. And it was around 1986, after the guys had been riding a Crescent Away for about 3-4 years, they decided to break up and called it a day. But George Michael had already established himself pretty much in the solo right. In fact, it was in 1984, off that Make It Big album from Wham, that Careless Whisper came out. I remember this song coming out and thinking, wow, this is class right here. And this is what George Michael was trying to do at this point. He was trying to appeal to a slightly mature audience. And absolutely, you know, that song absolutely did that, because this guy's got, as well as having the look, he's got a pretty amazing voice, this guy. And he was just an all-round compelling performer that when you saw him on screen, it was actually compelling and you were transfixed by him. This is a whole thing about him. Careless Whisper was actually quite a big song too. It sold 6 million singles worldwide, and it's got a pretty iconic saxophone in it as well. Interestingly, the last song had an iconic saxophone part. Well, so did this one. Chief Gregory is a saxophone player in this one. So Careless Whisper, we got a live version from 1991 and the official clip on that one. So George Michael had well and truly was establishing himself in his solo right. And he thought, well, what am I going to do to give myself a little bit more credibility? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to sing with one of my favourite singers of all time, Aretha Franklin. And together they came out with the duet, I Knew You Were Waiting For Me. This came off the Aretha Franklin album, Aretha, from 1987. This went to #1 on the UK singles chart, so pretty significant in the scheme of things. And you know, you've got to be pretty good to be able to sing with Aretha Franklin and to sing harmonies with Aretha Franklin. And George Michael was just a guy to do that, because his voice was becoming quite strong and quite sound and quite secure. and quite reliable, and so he was able to well and truly establish himself as an incredible singer with Aretha Franklin. Then came a period for George Michael of exceptional exponential growth as a solo artist. And that came in 1987, the album Faith. You got to have faith, faith, faith. I remember when this song came out, it was so new, it was so fresh, that it was not your typical pop kind of stuff. It was a little bit more, I suppose, organic in lots of ways. And this song went to number one in the UK. The album went to number one in the UK and the USA, and we stayed 51 weeks in the top 10. I've got the official clip of Faith. Now, this is George Michael in his absolutely iconic best. This is the look, big sunglasses, a stubbly face, good-looking bloke, you know, obviously looking at his bottom a bit. The girls like that sort of stuff, the amazing hair, the whole thing. This guy was well and truly maturing as a solo artist, and the world was really, really taking notice of George Michael at this point. But George Michael had been doing this music stuff all the way back from 1981, and he'd learned a few things between then and 1990, because the ushering in of a new decade ushered in some new thinking and new talking from George Michael. And now came Listen Without Prejudice, 1990, Volume 1. This was number one in the UK, number two in the US. And when you think of that particular album, there were quite a few songs on that particular album, but I suppose the song that I think of is Freedom 90. And just a little bit about this song. Give up the TV, give up the image, give up the name, give up the face. I had to do all of this stuff to remain popular. You know what? I'm over this stuff. I want to be my own person. I want to be able to, create my own way in this world and not be predicted to by the record music industry. And this is well and truly was a signal to the world that he wanted to change. And of course, there was identity things happening with George Michael as well. And that was all starting to emerge at about the same time. And so this is a pretty iconic song for George Michael. And I suppose the thing I just wanted to bring out about this particular song is that as we do enter 2023, we've got an opportunity to leave 2022 behind. Now, we don't ever completely leave it behind. Now, all the things that we have that happened, we can't pretend like they didn't happen. But what we can do is we can renew and review our relationship with those things and work out how we can actually move forward in a way, walking together with these things that is healthy, whether it's a relationship breakup or a job that's gone wrong or a financial loss or whatever it is. If you have experienced a loss, let brief interact with it so that you can actually go into the new year with a little bit of hope, because that's what 2023 really wants for you. It really wants you to grab it by the scruff of the neck and give it a bit of a shake. Well, as I've already shared, George Michael liked singing with some of his iconic artists, some of his heroes, and Aretha Franklin was one of those. He also got to sing with Elton John in 1991 at Wembley Stadium. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, which is obviously an Elton John 1974 classic. This is from Wembley Stadium. And it was a George Michael concert, but he invited Elton John to come up and sing it with him. George Michael is very game to take on such an iconic song as this one, but he does it really well. And of course, when you get Elton John on stage singing as well, it's an absolutely iconic performance. And it's nice to see Elton here, not playing the piano. He's just free from that and being able to just sing and be himself. And just really get into the song. And so we've got a really amazing live version of Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, an Elton John classic, in fact one of his best songs of all time. And George Michael did such a good job singing that one. Adding his own little stamps, bearing in mind that 1970s songs were sung fairly straight. When we get to the 1980s, there's a little bit more warbling and stuff going along, and George Michael just what was needed to make this song put a stamp on it. We then go forward to 1992, And when Freddie Mercury left us, he was one that was involved in the tribute concert singing Somebody to Love with Brian May and the Queen Gang, and is considered one of the greatest performances on that night. And of course, you know, you're not going to over sing a song like this one when you're doing tribute to one of the best singers of all time, but you are going to put just a little bit of stamp on it, which is what George Michael did here, and it just enabled Queen to remember their mate who had been with them for so long. And the world kind of paused the year that Freddie Mercury died, that is for sure. And that's a live version. So we've got 8 clips in the description below. Now, between 1983 and 84, there were 2 Wham albums and 12 singles. Between 97, 87 and 2004, 5 studio albums, 1 live album, 2 compilation albums, 5 video albums, 31 music videos. We're talking about MTV influence right there. 1 EP and 47 singles. Estimated George Michael sold around 120 million albums, 80 in his solo career and 40 with Wham. So that's pretty significant recognition and significance of contribution by George Michael to fans and vice versa. George Michael's won a few awards. He's won ASCAP Pop Awards, as you'd expect, 4 American Music Awards, 5 Brit Awards, so that's on both sides of the Atlantics. He's won 18 Billboard Music Awards, 2 Grammy Awards, 6 Ivor Novello Awards, a number of MTV Awards, and when he did leave us in 2016 at the age of 53, didn't the world pause on that day, because it was a real shock to everybody when that happened. Some amazing tributes came out, including from Elton John, who had a bit of fondness for George Michael, kind of took under his wing a little bit. He was just an amazing singer-songwriter, so kind, so sweet, and so generous. I think the way we can sum George Michael up is looking at the song Freedom 19 to realise that he was going to be his own man no matter what. He wasn't going to do what the world predicted of him. He was actually going to be who he needed to be to make George Michael the music icon that he has been. And I think, you know, there's again the challenge to all of us that, you know, the world seems to resonate with us when we are ourselves. And so why don't we want to do this stuff? So maybe 2023 can be an opportunity for us to work it out just a little bit more. And if you have a bit of an inkling, take a step in that direction. Well, as I said, the links to those 8 clips are in the description below, and I've also included my last video from Gerry Rafferty, so if you want to recap on him, feel free. Well, here we are in 2023. I trust it'll be a great year for you, as I've already said. If you've come back for another one, or this is your first time, the Life Reflections through Music, thank you to everyone for hanging around. And there's a whole heap of videos to come. Trust me on that one, including Gerry and the Pacemakers next time with one of their classics, You'll Never Walk Alone. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.